What's going on, everybody? Welcome in a live edition here of Mean Streets at FTN. Chris Meaney and Mike Randle. As you see, we are drafting live. It is officially draft season here at FTN Underdog Fantasy. Mike, welcome in. What's going on, man? We're already officially underway. We're at pick 5 here, and it looks like you were you're getting up. You're pick 8.
I just want some variance, Chris. I'm always pick 9. Now I got pick 8. This is driving me crazy. It's fine. I will adapt, but I love the early pick because you can take someone that maybe other people won't take. You get unique builds then. So, Chris, you're at 2, and then you're going to come back around now, and you can have a very unique build.
Yes, I'm just kind of messing around here with my screen. So I'll get into some details here in just a second as you see the draft is away, but it is back here now. So we're officially, I got too many monitors on the go here, Mike. So here we go.
Who am I
You're on the clock.
I know.
Walk me
This
through your
is
thoughts.
stress. God. All right. I'm going to do something different. I'm usually a 0 RB guy, but I'm going to go with Breece Hall. I'm buying in.
You're buying in?
Okay. Yeah, I think this will go, Chris. I think I'm going with Hero RB now. I wanted St. Brown, you know that. So St. Brown's gone. I'm just not messing with the Puka Nacua. I like Garrett Wilson too, but I went with Breece Hall. All right, fine.
It's funny because we talked before we went going here, we were talking about how we were hero RB or like heavy wide receiver. And of course, strategies will change and players will fall to you and you got to adapt. But we're officially underway here. And I just wanted to talk about Underdog Fantasy in general. This here is the Best Ball Mania 5. It is $25 to enter. There are $15 million in prizes. There are going to be 670,000 people roughly in this contest. Altogether in this draft, there's 18 rounds. You have 30 seconds to pick. $1.5 million to first place, 750,000 to second, 500K to third. You get your money back and some if you finish anywhere from like 8,000 to 112,000 roughly. Qualifiers from weeks 1 to 14, quarters week 15, 16, semis championship there to follow. So promo code FTN. If you are unfamiliar with Underdog Fantasy, we have a lot of content over at ftnfantasy.com. We have links inside the description of this video. Mike, you were talking about this contest in particular. We have some best ball content already, some stacks, some targets. We'll have all kinds of stuff over at FTN Fantasy. Rankings are live at ftnfantasy.com and projections as well. And now you are on the clock. You thought, so is that what you wanted to do? You wanted to just go heavy jet stack there or no?
But Chris, that's my thing. I'm like, I can differentiate here. I'll do a jet stack. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm all thrown off.
Draft season already. And we were 17 picks in before we've seen our first snipe job.
Oh my God. All right, now I'm going robust RB. See, Chris, the key is with Best Ball Mania, you want to have a unique build, and so I'm not going to sacrifice the unique build for any reason. So if I have a chance to lock up 2 workhorse RBs, I'm going to do it. I don't want to do that, but I would rather do that than take a bunch of receivers that I all think are the same. That's my point. So I started RB after telling you before this draft that I'm a 0 RB guy. I'm already on tilt.
Again, things change, right? For these drafts. I mean, different things are going to happen. You got to get a little bit uncomfortable with these best ball drafts. You're talking about being unique with your stacks, and a running back, wide receiver on the same team to start the draft would be a unique way. Are you devastated if you don't get one stack? Like, I've done drafts before and it just has not worked out for me, where maybe I get one team stack, but I don't get my other quarterbacks with my wide receivers. Is that a devastating moment for you?
Yeah, I like to have one because, Chris, last year I told you I started the overwhelming majority of my best ball teams properly. The guy who won the $3 million started Amon-Ra, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and that's how I started. I wanted a stack. Obviously, the Jared Goff stack worked. That would have been fantastic. So I do feel better. I'm not going to force it. But I do, Chris, feel better if it's there. I do.
This is I agree with you. Doing these drafts last year, nothing was worse than getting sniped. You know, we had actually on the show last year a lot of Jordan Love and a lot of Brock Purdy and a lot of CJ Stroud. It was easy to get stacks from those teams basically because those quarterbacks went pretty late.
Yep.
but there's nothing worse than a feeling of missing out on certain. I'm gonna take my first running back here in Kyron Williams, but there's nothing worse in just missing out on, you get Jaden Reed or you get Christian Watson, and I was certainly wrong about Christian Watson, but getting some of those Packers and then not being able to get that quarterback. Like say you start with 2 wide receivers from a team and the quarterback goes late, it's like, man, you kind of got to reach around to make sure you get that quarterback. And if you don't get him, you feel like you're screwed.
That's the thing, man. I feel like all the wide receivers after round 1, or really Nico Collins is my line of demarcation. I feel that they're similar. So that's why I went RB, because I want to differentiate. I also really like Bijan, but he didn't fall to me. So now what I'm looking to do, Chris, is I'm going to load up on wide receivers now. That's my plan, because if I'm taking Breece Hall and Saquon Barkley, I'm going to assume they stay healthy the whole year and they're elite producers. Otherwise, my team is done anyway. So time for me to hammer wide receivers. And the one I want Michael Pittman. That is who I want. And am I going to get sniped for the second straight time? Superior BA, whatever his name is. I want that. A boy. See,
this is my first best ball draft. We did a Sirius XM post draft on Sunday after the NFL draft.
Yep.
I was able to get Kyron Williams in the 3rd and Derrick Henry in the 4th, but that's just not going to happen in these drafts. And I just feel like maybe in best ball drafts and in real just straight NFL drafts, I think a lot of people are going to start this way. Like, look at this first round. Christian McCaffrey first, then a run of wide receivers and Hill, Lamb, Chase, Jefferson, then Bijan and Breece Hall sprinkled in with Amon-Ra in there. Then another run of wide receivers and A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, Marvin Harrison Jr., first rookie off the board at pick 11, Chris Olave. Then we get a couple more running backs in Gibbs, Taylor, and Barkley. But this is a heavy, you got your boy Michael Pittman there, but this is a heavy wide receiver second round, like Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Brendan Ayuk, Drake London, DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, Nico Collins, then Jalen Waddle. And then we start to see some running backs here. It's like the last of the few that could be bell cow backs, could be RB1s for you, could be your hero RB, your rock solid RB that you lean on in Kyron Williams, Derrick Henry. Donna Chan, I don't think is a rock solid hero RB, but Travis Etienne here to the Bijan owner, Josh Jacobs, right? Rock solid RB you can lean on. You're the only one to start RB. So you're right. You're a little bit different here with this lineup, but you have the best 2 backs. Looking at this team right now through 3 rounds, you're the only team, one of 2 teams with 2 backs, but I like yours and Breece Hall and Saquon versus ETN and Robinson, close second there, Taylor, Gibbs. But I feel like for the most part, Mike, this is kind of how drafts are going to look like for the first 3 rounds as we get a little mini quarterback run there. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes, 3 picks in a row to end the 3rd and start the 4th.
Hey, Chris, I wonder if our colleague Tyler Lochner sneaked in here with the 11 pick, taking Travis Kelce in round 3. It's a little early for my liking, but I get it. But my thoughts on him. All right, so now my pick. I'm up next. Cooper Kupp, again, the injury concerns. Zay Flowers was good. Tank Dell, now Stephon Diggs is there. I think it's a little early for Tank Dell, especially if I like Nico Collins. No to T. Higgins. I am going with volume, Chris, and I'm taking George Pickens because no Deontay Johnson. And I know he's not a separator, okay? He's not one of those you go this way, I go that way guys, okay? He's more Des Bryant, but he should have a monster target share from Russell Wilson, who throws a decent deep ball still, and Justin Fields, who can air it out. So that was I'm going for volume. I have Pittman and Pickens, not exactly, Chris, the quickest wide receivers or best separators, but I think they're productive. That's why I took them.
Were you thinking at all about Anthony Richardson because you got Pittman?
Thought about it. I did
early.
I did. Yeah. It's hard for me to take those quarterbacks early. And I don't, me, I don't take quarterbacks or tight ends early because it's typically a position, especially in best ball, where you're only going to have 1 per week. I do have a team I drafted at one point where I took Kelce and Mark Andrews in rounds 4 and 5 because I thought it was good value. But I don't like taking a quarterback that early. But you're right. If Anthony Richardson does for a full season what he did last year, that, my friend, is a league winner.
Yeah, only parts of 4 games, really 3 and change, and 4 rushing touchdowns there for him. He is going here pretty early. He's going to go in probably a minute or two. I don't like this range of wide receivers at all. I mean, Amari Cooper, in terms of volume, I think is fine. Odunze is going to be buried, I think, in year 1. Rice suspension. Terry McLaurin, I kind of dig. I like some of these running backs, and I'll wait. I'll take Amari here as my 3rd wide receiver, kind of the guy nobody really wants in drafts. A little bit of, ADPs early. By the way, we have an ADP tool over at ftnfantasy.com as well to track some of these, and we'll be tracking them on Main Street, some high risers and fallers, and we'll try to identify them here throughout this episode and this draft of players that we think will rise up draft boards as we get closer to the NFL season. Love the Pickens call. There goes CJ Stroud.
Yep.
So my thinking was even though I would like to maybe go another wide receiver, I'll probably dive into the end of this tier in terms of running backs. I already have Evans, so probably won't do Rashad. I have Joe Mixon as a top 10 back, borderline top 10 back. I know he's not an efficient running back, but man, he's going to catch a bunch of passes. Houston's going to score a ton of points. He's going to be the every down back there. Even with him being inefficient over the past few years in Cincinnati, Mike, he's just a guy that catches a ton of passes out of the backfield, goal line work. So didn't think I would have Mixon in this draft, but here we are. And I referenced Sirius, the post-draft. He went as RB24. I was able to get him in like the 7th round. Again, this is not going to happen in these type of drafts. So we're headed back the other way. Trey McBride just goes off the board. So CJ Stroud, we got Allen, Hurts, Mahomes, Lamar, and CJ Stroud there. Basically 5 quarterbacks within 13 picks. Do you believe, though, I'm sure you're hoping for Richardson.
If he gets to me, I'll take him.
Yeah.
If he gets to me, I will take him, Chris. My backup is Jaden Reed. I love the Green Bay offense, and I think he's going to be the number 1. I love getting a Packers stack. They throw the ball a ton. They're going to score. He was fantastic for the end of the year, 30-plus touchdown passes. He runs as well. The division is not daunting. I like everything about Jordan Love. So if Richardson goes, I am fine taking Jaden Reed here. If they both go, you're going to hear me scream. Kyle Pitts, boy. Okay.
All right, tight end.
And Mark Andrews. Wow.
I'm actually kicking myself for not taking Jalen Waddle when I took Mike Evans. So yeah, best ball season is here. You got to be thinking stacks. So there's a couple comments and a couple questions we'll get into. Dylan's in the house. Best ball. If you're just joining us live, we just said off the top of the show, this is Best Ball Mania 5 over at UnderdogFantasy.com. This is a best ball draft and forget it. There's no waiver wire stuff. You're shooting for upside. They're going to take your best quarterback, couple running backs, wide receivers, flex, tight end for the week, and you're really just shooting for the highest weeks possible. Of course, there are some things that we're unaware of at the moment in terms of schedule, for one, in the NFL. We do know the opponents and things like that, but once the schedule comes out, you start looking ahead at the playoff weeks. How much do you look ahead at the playoff weeks? It's very important, of course, but you also need to get to week 15, to the semis and to the championship week, Mike.
It's a great question because last year they gave regular season prizes in Best Ball Mania. This year they don't. Oh my God, I'm 3 away from Jaden Reed. Sorry, Chris. I'm having a hot flash.
It's okay. We don't want to distract you here. Make sure you get your guy, Jaden Reed.
Oh, he's McLaurin. Come on, don't take Jaden Reed. One time.
I actually think that's pretty good value for Terry McLaurin in this spot as well. Like Xavier Worthy and Rome Odunze going ahead of him.
Oh my God.
Oh, there it is. Sniped again, ladies and gentlemen, twice already.
Oh, this is so
Benny in the house.
I need a second. I'm sorry. Thanks,
Benny. We wanted to get you in here as soon as we hit enter. It was just, I think I was the second last and Mike was the last. And
I'm totally on tilt. What am I doing here? Oh, I don't know what to do. I'm going to run out of time. Oh my God.
You do have 30 seconds, but it's like you don't fully have 30 seconds. The clock does run out on you a little quick. So
okay. Sorry, Chris. What were you saying? Yeah. So yes, I think that looking at week 15, 16, and 17 matter this year because of the way the payout structure is. Everything is in the playoffs. And Chris, last year I did hit it. It was Dallas and Detroit. That was the game in Dallas. A lot of points, a lot of production. And it doesn't have to be 42-35. It has to be a condensed target a condensed fantasy point share, which it was. It was Amara, it was Goff, it was Montgomery. Like that's what you need is a game in which everything is condensed. It's like doing the NBA DFS lineups, which I've been doing the last God knows how many months. You don't necessarily need a game that's high scoring. What you need is a condensed game. I think the Lions with Laporta and Amara and Goff, everything is fairly condensed. And that's why I do like to look ahead to see those opportunities. But I will point out, Chris, you remember last year, one of the things that people said right away was you're not taking James Conner because in week, what was it, 16 or 17, he's at Philly. And Philly's run defense is so good. There's no way James Conner is going to be great. 4 touchdowns later, and the Cardinals win. I apologize. At Philly, that's my point is sometimes looking ahead, things happen differently than you believe.
Yeah, I absolutely. Right. I know Jake says that all the time. It's like, man, like last year, we didn't think that the Bears run defense was going to be good. Oh, week 15, 16, 17 is going to be a fantastic matchup for a running back. And, in the second half of the season, they acquire Sweat. And this is a team that was one of the best at stopping the run in the NFL. So these things happen. So Dylan, this is a best ball draft. We're shooting for upside. We're trying to get some stacks. It's not everything, but it is important. Like, for example, if you have 2 wide receivers with a quarterback, say you start your draft, and I probably should have, really in hindsight here with the number 2 pick, Tyreek Hill, I probably should have went Jalen Waddle over Mike Evans. Now, I like Mike Evans a lot more than Jalen Waddle this season in fantasy. I have Mike Evans as a wide receiver 1. Waddle's more of a low-end wide receiver 2. What we know about Mike Evans, a walking 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns. He does it every single year. We had questions about him this time last year. He was going in the 7th or 8th round because of Baker Mayfield, but he was fantastic. He was actually better with Baker last year than he was with Brady, I believe, in his final year there. But having Waddle as my wide receiver 2 and then getting Tua a little bit later on would have made some sense. If Tua has a 3 or 4 touchdown game, Waddle has 2 touchdowns, Tyreek has a touchdown, I'm maximizing my upside and my potential. I'm getting a lot of points. I'm hoping for, a big week. So stacks are important. And it seems like Mike and I had a similar strategy where we were going to target wide receivers early and often, but running backs fell to him and he was sniped with Garrett Wilson. So he decided to go a running back start here. You're coming up in a couple picks, but Mike from the 8 spot, Breece Hall, Saquon Barkley, Michael Pittman Jr., George Pickens, Anthony Richardson, Rashee Rice, Christian Watson there. So was Rice on your radar, or are you just thinking like, hey, you know what? If he's going to get suspended for multiple games, it could be 2, could be 4, could be 6. We're unsure. But if he wasn't suspended, he would be going much earlier than round 6.
Yeah, I'm trying to embrace risk more in my strategy.
And you're also on deck.
Yeah, I know who I'm taking here if he is available, and you're going to think it's a reach, but I have a strategy.
No, you know what? I don't think there's any reaches. For example, Jaden Daniels just went. Now, I actually think that as you're on Romeo Dubs there, so you got Green Bay thing going on.
Right. That's it.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, that's my thought is I'm going to embrace risk. If Rashee Rice was not suspended, everyone would love him. He's clearly the alpha there. I know Marquise Brown came in. Marquise Brown is not an alpha at this point. He was okay on Arizona, but Rice would have been the guy. Travis Kelce's 35. So I know he's probably going to be suspended, Chris. I don't think it's going to be 8 games. I think that's a little high. Of course, it was a terrible situation. But I think it'll be 2 or 4, in which case it's worth it to me, because when he comes back, he could be a huge deal. And last year, people were not nervous about Jameson Williams on Detroit getting suspended, and Rice is much more productive than he was, tethered to Patrick Mahomes, offense is going to pass, lacking playmakers, and I know they drafted Xavier Worthy, but still a rookie. That's why I took him, trying to embrace risk, as I did with Christian Watson, who could be a disaster, but could also be a home run if his hamstring is healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to take my first tight end here and try to get a Cleveland stack. I mean, it's
that's what I was.
Maury Cooper, and Njoku. Maybe I can get Watson later.
Yeah, I brought this up the other day. I put this on X. People love Travis Kelce. Look at Travis Kelce's numbers. I'll pull this up right now. I put this out a while ago. So explain to me why Travis Kelce is going as tight end 2. I think I have it right here. And his stats last year were Here it is. Last year, Travis Kelce, his ADP is 40. He's tight end 2 in Best Ball Mania. 93, 984, 5 with Mahomes. So he's the ideal quarterback. He went 93, 94, and 5. David Njoku had you, me, and a bunch of other guys at quarterback. ADP is 91. That's 50 spots later. He's tight end 10. He's 8 spots later. He went 81, 882, and 6. So 12 fewer catches, about 100 fewer yards, 1 more touchdown with garbage quarterback play. That, to me, is a good value by you.
Yeah. One thing I will say about Travis Kelce is I thought his role was so tough last year because they didn't have a vertical threat and a deep threat inside the offense. Now getting Xavier Worthy, and I don't want to call him Tyreek Hill. Of course, everybody knows that he's the fastest human ever. I mean, he had the fastest 40 time in the history of the NFL Combine. But just having that vertical threat will make it tougher to bracket Travis Kelce, will make it tougher to double him. So now he'll see like a little bit more one-on-one and kind of like, because you can't play man against Kansas City, right? Because you can't play man against Patrick Mahomes. But now having that deep threat in, and maybe last year, and maybe we'll see this moving forward with Travis Kelce, because we saw a different Travis Kelce in the playoffs. We saw Hall of Famer Travis Kelce in the playoffs. He was playing roughly 10 more snaps per game in the postseason compared to the regular season. And he averaged nearly 100 receiving yards in the postseason compared to just over 60 in the regular season. So maybe there's some sort of load management is something at this point of his career. I know they just extended him to a contract, but that's something to keep an eye on. But I couldn't agree more. Like him going where he went in this draft as even tight end 2, like 2 picks after Sam Laporta at the end of the third. But at the same time, this is what this thinker is thinking here. Team 11, Marvin Harrison Jr., Devontae Adams. Great. 2 volume wide receivers. Next up, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. Boom. Got your KC stack. After that, Marquise Brown. After that, Xavier Worthy. Look at this team, what we allowed Team 11 to do here, Randall. Kelce, Mahomes, Hollywood, Worthy. Chiefs stack. Did it all.
Yeah, well done. That's how you differentiate. And you know there'll be production, barring injury, but everybody can get injured. And you hope that you hit it right in the playoffs. That is a good way to differentiate. I like that. I like that move.
Yeah, not too bad here. You went with a high upside guy in Rashid Shaheed in round 9, and I went with a high upside guy in Jameson Williams in round 9 as well. I do believe Jameson Williams, both of these guys are probably in for a larger role, right? In New Orleans, they only drafted 1 wide receiver in Bub Means. Hell of a name. Bub Means? Are you kidding me? I might have to get a jersey. But there's no Michael Thomas, missing some guys it's a weak wide receiver room outside of Chris Olave. On the other side, Jameson Williams, Josh Reynolds has gone to Denver. You are on the clock. Just want to remind you of that as I talk your ear off. I think Jameson Williams, our guy, I think he's a JMO. I think he's a Lions fan, but Jameson Williams is maybe a poster boy for best ball, high upside. He's either going to get you 30 points or maybe 0 points. Mike is like a guy who's already shown us that he's explosive. He's going to be an explosive player in the NFL.
Yeah, and this is counterintuitive. What I prefer to do is take those guys in the middle of the draft. Your instinct would be to take those feast or famine guys late. That's not what I want. I want the risk in the middle rounds. I want to take a shot on Anthony Richardson being QB1 in the middle round. I want to take a chance on a Rashid Shaheed who could be very volatile in the middle rounds. I prefer, Chris, to take the old Adam Thielens late, the Tyler Boyds late, the Dawson Knox late, because I know they will give me those usable weeks. The players who you take who are feast or famine, if you wait to the end of your best ball drafts, you have even greater variance that they don't do anything for you because the floor is so terrible. A feast or famine guy in the middle at worst will give you usable weeks and a lot of bad weeks. So I like to embrace it right in the middle here. Pulling up, you're on the clock, pulling up last year's team that won Best Ball Mania 4, their middle picks. I mean, George Pickens went in round 5. Chris, he was awful the entire year until the end. So basically, his team was carried by those players. Alexander Madison, back-to-back, 2 terrible picks, but he came back with Swift. He came back with Connor. And then he loaded up and he had some great hits late. Raheem Mostert, okay, someone who is dropping team backfield drafting. Jaden Reed, CJ Stroud, no one wanted. So I am fine taking risk in the middle because you could hit a home run on a player like Sam Laporta last year who went in round 11 or James Conner who went in round 8. It doesn't have to be at the end of the draft.
Yeah, it's a good point. And also players like say Jonathan Brooks, who
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if he is gone here yet, but like potential, like everything kind of worked out for George Pickens down the stretch of the season. I think what happened was that we got a quarterback change, and Mason Rudolph wasn't great, but he was able to push the ball down the field and he had those big blow up games. But other players that made us have a strong second half, like Jonathan Brooks does come to mind because, you know, his season was cut short last year with Texas. With the ACL injury, and he doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires, really. He was fantastic in the roughly 11 games that he played before the injury, but he played behind Roshan Johnson. He played behind Bijan Robinson in Texas over the previous couple of years, obviously before last season. But the injury to his knee, and all signs point to him being ready to go training camp. But I think obviously, I say obviously, but he is the most talented running back in that Carolina backfield at the moment in that room with Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders. But it may take some time. It could be like a Cam Akers or a Javonte Williams type rookie season where down the stretch of the season, these guys are fantastic. They're RB1s. They're flirting with RB1 weeks, week in and week out. It could be similar where we could see a Jonathan Brooks maybe only touch the ball a handful of times in the first couple of weeks of the season before he takes off. And getting drafted here is roughly RB40 as a guy that might just may be a top 20 back in the second half. There's probably a few rookies, like Trey Benson is another guy. You know, James Conner's never had a full season in his career. If he goes down, Benson, second half. You got Wright for Miami. You know, if a Chan or Mostert can't stay healthy or an injury happens to one of those guys and Wright all of a sudden stakes the backfield, like there's a lot. Blake Corum just went. A lot of these rookie running backs, I think in particular, are not going to get a lot of workload early. And maybe in the second half, because of their play, they fall into workload or an injury happens and they're next man up. Like, do you have that feeling when it comes to this running back class?
Yeah, when I have an opportunity like to get an early wide receiver or to double tap wide receiver in an area that I like, I love to grab a ton of these guys. You mentioned them: Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis in Buffalo. I mean, at worst, Ray Davis is going to be doing some work with James Cook. I mean, that's not a deep depth chart, so he's a great value. And if Cook ever gets hurt, then Ray Davis should eat. So I love scooping up all of them and then just hoping one of them hits. I am up right now. Where do I go?
You take your time here with the pick. There's a question earlier about Kyren Williams. So how high would Kyren go if Corum wasn't picked by the Rams? And honestly, I know it's early in draft season, but I am not seeing much of a change at all. We've been talking. I know Jake Sealy and myself have been talking on All in Football about the early ADP and rankings of Kyren Williams, and he was kind of living for most people in that 8 to 10 range. And I haven't seen much movement now. Sean McVay has I think he's drafted a running back every year. He's been with the Rams. He likes to give a guy a lot of work. We did see Kyren get a ton of work last year post injury. Can he hold up over the full season, getting, like, I'm talking CMC touches, 20 plus opportunities, carries, and targets? Is that going to continue? Maybe the thinking is, Mike, that, okay, you got a guy in Corum who also was a workhorse back in college that they can, lean on him a little bit. I still think Kyron's the one, and I still think he's a top 10 running back regardless. Pre-draft, post-draft, I still think he's the lead. I don't think his touches are going to be taken away from him, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they scale him back to, let's say, 18 plus opportunities, and Corum's a guy that's touching the ball like 7 or 8 times. How do you think that backfield is going to play out?
Yeah, I think it's the presence of Blake Corum is suppressing Kyren Williams to a very affordable level. If you take his name off and just show his stats, he's a round 1 pick, no problem. But people are getting nervous and not embracing that. The Rams offense is going to score. It's going to be strong. And you can, if you really get nervous, you can handcuff Blake Corum because he's available, as you see in round 11. I like handcuffing. I don't like handcuffing when you have to go rounds 4 and round 7 to do handcuffing like Najee and Jalen Warren. But I'm fine with it if you don't want to embrace the risk and you want to have that because the running back last year, we all knew Cam Akers was going to be questionable, and no one really liked Cam Akers, and Sean McVay didn't really like Cam Akers. But Kyren Williams snuck under the radar. And it's worth noting, guys, the Best Ball Mania winner from last year, the team was drafted on August 29th. So Kyron Williams was clearly established as the backup running back. McVay does not play his starters that much in the preseason, so no one really saw Kyron Williams a lot. And then all of a sudden, there he was.
Yeah. Again, rookie running back, right? That kind of took off. But to your point, the draft happened, just days before the NFL season started. Of course, there's pros and cons of drafting this early. The cons would be that injuries, unfortunately, are going to happen. Like they're just going to happen, and hopefully it doesn't happen to your team. But the pros, and we're going to really identify the pros, is I am seeing a ton of value already in drafts. Like I wanted to bring up Jaden Daniels earlier to you as you're on the clock and you go Musgrave there. Nice. You're a full on Packers dude.
I listen. There's
but no love.
No, I couldn't. I wanted Love, and he went too early. So I don't necessarily shy away from the stack. I loved Detroit last year. I thought things were condensed.
Yeah.
We're now in what, round 13. So to stack Luke Musgrave, to me, that's the sort of area I'm at. I mean, I could have went Kate Otten. Ben Sinnott is there. Isaiah likely needs an injury. I like Jonnu Smith a lot. I just don't know how much they use the tight end. So to me, that was an easy pick.
Again, back to value, like for example, Jaden Daniels, for most people, I think in our projections, Jeff may have him as like quarterback 12, 13, 14. I have him in that range too. I think he's a guy that could run for 600 yards. And that's the thing. Like if you give this guy 600 rushing yards, he's going to flirt with QB1 status. Interesting to see him go. Like his ADP, when I looked, he was quarterback 16, I think. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get some Jaden Daniels. It's a cheap stack that you can get. You can easily get Terry McLaurin. You could easily get Jahan Dotson if you like Jahan Dotson, and you can get Jaden Daniels. But this is a guy I can already identify as going to be one of the biggest ADP risers because he did not go as quarterback 14 here. He went ahead of Dak Prescott, who finished as quarterback 3 in fantasy last season, almost 40 touchdowns and 4,500 yards or whatever that he had. But again, it's the rushing floor that people are after with Jaden Daniels. So I think, ahead of Dak, ahead of Brock, ahead of Caleb Williams, ahead of Kirk, Trevor Lawrence. And I agree with pretty much all of that, except for maybe Dak and Brock. But Mike, this is where we're at, man. The rushing floor, like Jaden Daniels, round 8, Anthony Richardson to you, round 5. And you'd be lucky to see Anthony Richardson after round 5 available in these best ball drafts.
Yeah, I put this out also, got a lot of criticism, but I believe that this focus in the NFL on I need the next great quarterback. That's great, guys. I need $1 million too. It's not easy to get. So I think teams have pivoted to, unless we feel we can find Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, that sort of guy, we're going to try to win and shove our chips in the middle on the rookie quarterback on their rookie deal, or an average veteran like a Baker Mayfield. So Jaden Daniels is a great pick. Why, Chris? They're going to use him. They're going to embrace his dual threat ability. They're going to let him run all over the place. They're not going to care if he gets hurt because they're not going to be worried about saving him. They're going to follow the path that we saw with Richardson, who unfortunately got hurt, but was dominant before he got hurt. We saw Robert Griffin have a fantastic rookie season as well. So they're going to embrace the dual threat ability of these quarterbacks, and they're not going to worry about him getting injured. So in that situation, if Anthony Richardson can be as good as he was, why was Anthony Richardson going in the top 10 with not nearly the pedigree of production of Jaden Daniels? And Jaden Daniels is falling now outside the top 10. I have no problem with that pick.
Jermaine Burton is an interesting guy too. I mean, just about T. Higgins, it sounds like Higgins is going to be there for the whole season. So, whatever. But if Higgins doesn't go, all of a sudden, like potential opportunity to fall into a pretty large workload potentially with Herbert there. I'm kind of stuck on what I want to do here. I think I'm going to take Burton. I got a lot of wide receiver going on in my life. We'll go Burton here. I'm going to surprise you, I think, with the next pick, which may be probably a touch of a reach.
It's not a reach if it works out.
Yeah. I'll just say it. I mean, that guy's not going to do it. I think I'm going to have a lot of Will Levis in best ball.
That's fair. That's good.
As my third quarterback, as a cheap stack, I get one of Hopkins or Ridley, maybe Chig. His first game was awesome with Hopkins and everyone. He freaked out. He cooled off. But this is going to be a bad football team for one. They're going to be – I actually liked their offseason. I liked their draft, and I liked their free agency. We're going to just do it. We're going to take Will. Again, it's actually doesn't seem like that big of a reach. They're showing ADP 170, pick 170, 75, 170. My thinking here with Tennessee is this is just a different offense. That's it. Forget Derrick Henry, run the football. It's just not going to be like that. They got Brian Callahan there as the head coach and the play caller, and I thought he did terrific things with Cincinnati and Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor for the past couple of years. And Jake Browning came in, and Jake Browning was actually like, whoa, this guy, why does he look so good? That was Callahan adjusting. So you got weapons in Ridley and Hopkins. You got two pass catching running backs in Pollard and Spears. You have the mix of them being a pretty bad team defensively. Maybe they're a team that throws a football quite a bit this year. And Will Levis has got an arm. He's in real life. You don't want to be thrown in triple coverage, but he's shown me that he doesn't care. If there's somebody downfield, he's gonna sling it downfield. So I'm not saying that he's going to be a single quarterback guy this year in your standard leagues. 12 teams, 10 teams, no chance. But Superflex is your third quarterback. Last year, the same thing on the show. I thought Love. 2 years ago was Goff in the mid-20s. Last year it was Love and CJ Stroud and Brock Purdy. And this year, like maybe you want to toss out another quarterback in this 20 range, Mike, but maybe it's Bryce Young at 26. But I'm thinking Will Levis is quarterback 24 on average is a pretty cheap stack to kind of get a piece of. And also talk to me about what you would do between Fields and Russell Wilson. Would you just take Fields because he has the higher ceiling, even though he may not be the week one starter?
That's a great question. First off, you're totally right. No one could have less hoopla and support in the best ball streets in May of last year than CJ Stroud. No one wanted him. They thought he's not going to be good. They're going to be terrible, everything. So Will Levis, total sense. There's a pathway for him to have a great year. Very logical. I have had some drafts where I've waited on quarterback and I've taken Russell Wilson, Bryce Young, and Justin Fields all in a row, saying that I like the Steelers. I think the Steelers are going to be good. One of the best run sports franchises in existence. And no one wants Bryce Young. No one wants him, but he is definitely the starter. That's what I've done. Who am I taking now?
Yeah, I think that we will see Fields at some point, and he clearly has a higher ceiling. If he was named than Russell, if he was named the week one starter tomorrow, he would move probably to like as a quarterback top 12. Why wouldn't he? He never really had a ton of weapons in Chicago. And of course he did last season, and it worked out well for him and DJ Moore when they're on the field together. There's no question about that. There is a lack of weapons in Pittsburgh, but his rushing upside, we just talked about Jaden Daniels, makes him a borderline top 12. So it's risky to pick him, but has he even gone yet? And we're here in round 16. You know what I mean? Like you can get a quarterback. He's going as quarterback 27 on average.
Chris, the reason he's going 27 is because people don't think he's going to be the starter. My comeback to that is maybe, but if he gets on the field with those weapons, he's going to be a top 10 quarterback.
Well, that's the thing. Like it's risky, but at this point, what's the risk? What's the risk in taking him as your third quarterback in round 16 after Drake May, who may not even start a game this year? Like, I actually think that Jacoby Brissett is the week one starter. And I think we'll see May at some point.
Sure.
But, anyways, there's some quarterbacks to take. That's all I'm saying in the later part of the draft. And I'm going to get Chig here and I got a little Titan stack. I'll tell you what, I did not expect to come in here with a Buck stack, a Brown stack, and a Titan stack. Like these are not jumping off the page.
Right. But that's how you win. That's the point is you go to a place that no one else is going to go. And again, last year, no one is stacking CJ Stroud. No one's doing it. And it was a home run. Yeah. Bryce Young is getting the field to me because Bryce Young is like the plague right now. And he's the guaranteed starter. There's no competition. New head coach, just had success over in Tampa, has some new no receiving help. And does anything, Chris, seem more likely than Deontay Johnson dominating on a bad team? I mean, he is that type of guy. They have a load of running backs now. The offensive line's not terrible. They're going to be trailing, negative game script. Bryce Young will run a little bit more. that is this year's pick. I don't mind grabbing him late.
What do you think about these running backs with upside here? You got Braylon Allen.
Take your pick.
Man,
That's the issue.
Garendo is a nice piece too. I'm going to go with Allen. But yeah, it's as we talked about earlier with these rookie running backs, like there's a lot of them that are going to be buried on their team to start. But my goodness, like Garendo is a guy that I just feel like it's just give him. I know CMC, we don't want CMC to go away. CMC's a stud. But what Kyle Shanahan can do with these running backs and what we've seen in the history with, you know, whether it's Elijah Mitchell or definitely not Mason or Dorian Price. Everyone freaked out about him. But Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, kind of next man up mentality. I think there's definitely some home run picks here at the running back position that are worth it, especially for people that like to go maybe hero RB and hammer RB early, forget about the position for a while, and then they get maybe one or two of these rookies.
Yeah, you can just pick 3 here late, and if one of them hits, you're all set. Where am I going? I'm definitely going running back here.
So yeah, we're doing a live draft. See some people that are popping in. FTNfantasy.com for all the goods, best ball content, rankings. We're going to continue to pump some best ball content out on Mean Streets. I'll have, you know, some sleepers, some targets, some guys that I think will rise to get a piece of, rookies I think will rise to get ahead of the curve early, some stacks, some late round stacks, and promo code FTN. They'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. We have a link inside the description of this video, just bringing you right there to Underdog Fantasy with the promo code. Articles already, rankings, projections, everything live over at ftnfantasy.com. You want to know about the latest rookies in the NFL, we have and I put the link in from the draft blog, myself and Randall and Pfeiffer and Pope, a crew of us were with some instant analysis on the landing spot of some of these players as well. And it's not going to stop over at ftnfantasy.com. So we got you covered. And we'll be doing a lot of these best ball drafts moving forward. We only have one more round here left. And I do want to recap the draft with you after and try to identify how just some of these sleepers and the things.
Yeah, I took Bryce Young because I have the 2 stud running backs. So I don't think I need the running back depth. Again, if one of them goes down, I'm probably in trouble. But I did think my quarterbacks were they were just okay in Richardson and Goff. I like them both, but to have that third quarterback and a guy I think has no challenge and is not, you know, and I don't want to get involved in the Wilson Fields, who's going to get benched. I thought that was a better play just to give myself some options and some depth there. And, you know, I'm going to go all in on the running backs. I got the 7 wide receivers, and now I'm taking my token tight end, which is Dawson Knox, every single draft.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. Him and Sanders are kind of guys that, and Kraft is another guy who just went there. We saw him kind of pop off when the injury happened there to Luke. So there's certainly some tight ends you could take at the last pick. Theo Johnson's a rookie that I think could rise up a little bit as a late last round pick when Waller officially announces his retirement and whatnot. Although I feel like Daniel Bellinger will probably get more run than him, but I could see him moving up a little bit. Yeah, man, fun. It's fun to be drafting. Again, there's pros and cons, of course. I feel like there's a lot of pros in drafting right now and getting ahead of a lot of it and getting the edges, and guys are going to rise up draft boards. There's really no debate in that. You know, for example, like Puka Nacua was the most owned wide receiver that we had in drafts last year on Mean Streets and in my
home run,
my exposure.
Home run.
But it wasn't just like because I thought this guy was going to be as good as he was. Like, but he was going late in drafts. And when Treylon Burks is just gross. We can go Elijah. We can just do another Cleveland thing here, add to the stack. But my point is, these guys were going late early on. They were going late early on. And get back into this draft here in a second, show you guys some of the results. We'll roll through them. They were going early in drafts, or sorry, let me just focus. They're going late in drafts, but as we got closer to the season, they're going earlier. You said nobody wanted CJ Stroud, nobody wanted Puka Nacua. These guys were literally your last pick in the last round for the first 2 months, 3 months of the offseason draft season. But when we did get a little bit closer, they were starting to pick up steam, especially CJ, and they're going a touch earlier. So the pros, Mike, even though you don't know the schedule and some players are going to be on bye and whatnot, is really you're getting a lot of value by drafting at this moment, I find.
Yeah, what I love about your draft, Chris, is it's not about compiling players. It's about having a strategy and executing. I love that the Giants did not take JJ McCarthy. They must not be sold on him. And if you're not sold on him, you don't want to force it because you end up with Josh Rosen. And so if you can't get the guy that you want, it's better to follow a path. And the same is true with best ball. So if you can't, like, for example, I couldn't get the receiver. I would have to start, I'd have to go with like Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. I didn't like that. So I'm going to follow a strategy. You pivoted. You have a Tennessee stack. Who is having a Tennessee stack? So you're unique.
Nobody probably should.
Well, no, you would have said no one probably should have a Texan stack either last year.
That's fair.
So you're unique in that, and there is a definite path. So you stuck to the strategy. You have a Browns and Titans stack. I have not heard of anyone having both of those. Kudos to you. That's unique, but that's the way you're going to win the big money. We are not looking to finish fourth in our 12 team bracket. We're looking to win. And in order to do that, you have to be unique. And all you need for your team right here, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, who have been death taxes and automatic, Kyron Williams to actually continue to be solid. You got guaranteed volume from Cooper, guaranteed volume from Mixon. That's a solid team. So what you've done is you've given yourself a solid high floor start with a very unique home run build. That's how you do it.
Yeah, it does feel weird. Yeah, of course. Like we talked about here, you have to kind of think outside the box and get a little gross. I would like to have a Titan stack with a top 5 offense in an ideal world, right? Give me a Lions, a KC, an Eagles, a Cowboys stack with maybe a secondary or third stack in a Browns or a Titans. But this is the way it fell out. So I'll read your team off here in a second. But yeah, I started here with Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans. I guess looking back, Waddle could have been available to me, and I could have went with a Miami. Easily to get Tua, and it's tough to get Tyreek. You can get Waddle, you get Tyreek, you can make it happen. Didn't work out for me that way. Mike Evans, wide receiver 2, Kyron Williams, RB1, Amari Cooper, wide receiver 3, Joe Mixon at 5, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins, David Njoku, Jameson Williams, Ezekiel Elliott, who's another guy that I think will rise up draft boards. I have him as RB25. He's, just look at Pollard last year. Wasn't fantastic, but he was second in the NFL in red zone rushing attempts. He wasn't great in that role, and this Dallas offense is still going to be electric. They're going to score a lot of points. Zeke's going to get a lot of work inside the 10. Again, he's not efficient at all. He hasn't been over the past couple of years, but he can still catch out of the backfield. Dallas is going to score some points. I think Zeke's going to be the lead there. Round 10, I think, is decent value for him. Same with Brian Robinson Jr. in here, round 10. I know he was your guy last year, but this is a guy that I think is him and Gus Edwards. Like this round, I want to get into rounds with you, but Zeke, Brian Robinson Jr., Raheem Mostert, Nick Chubb hurt, but Gus Edwards too. Like these guys can all finish with, I say Zeke and Edwards and Mostert, wouldn't be shocked if it was 8+ touchdowns in their offense. Back to my team after Eckler or after Zeke, Austin Eckler. Not crazy about that, but my RB4, pass catching running back there. Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson back-to-back. So get Baker with Godwin and Mike Evans. Get Deshaun with Njoku and Amari Cooper. Jermaine Burton, young buck wide receiver. Get some upside there. Will Levis, again, with Hopkins. I got Okonkwo there with Will Levis. So a bit of a Tennessee stack. Braylon Allen, and then more Cleveland there with Elijah Moore. So it is heavy Cleveland, Tennessee, and Tampa Bay, but some three stacks there. So for you, Breece Hall and Saquon Barkley, I'd say the best 1-2 punch in the backfield in any team here. You started running back, the only squad to do it. Then Michael Pittman, volume. George Pickens, absolutely, let's go. As the wide receiver 1, breakout season for George Pickens, and I'm here for it. Anthony Richardson, a guy that I don't think either of us would be shocked if we finished his quarterback 4-3, right there with Lamar and Allen and Hurts over a full season, giving his rushing upside. The value here in Rashee Rice, especially if he's only suspended for 2 games, the upside with Christian Watson, the touchdown machine with Romeo Doubs, the speed burner, high upside, Rashid Shaheed, Tajay Spears, same thing, as I was alluding to, Tennessee, right? All kinds of playmakers now on this squad. It's not a run-heavy squad. This is a team that's going to be playing from behind, passing the football. Brian Callahan is a heck of a play caller, guys. We're going to be talking about him this season in Tennessee. Jared Goff, Oh, baby, let's go. It's a guy, again, that could finish as a top 10 quarterback. Cole Kmet, Luke Musgrave there, back-to-back tight ends. Jaleel McLaughlin, McLovin, Wandell Robinson. Oh, I love this pick. Tyron Tracy Jr. Missed this one. This is what I'm talking about, right? With some of these running backs, these rookie running backs, some of them would need guys to go down. Will Shipley needs Saquon to go down. Bucky Irving, maybe some third down work there, but Rashad White, was just a workhorse back. You trying to tell me that Tracy Jr. can't get like maybe 50% of the touches by like week 2 or 3 with Devin Singletary to that backfield? Love the pick, Mike.
Yeah, embracing uncertainty. And I have a risk there with Rashee Rice, and I have a risk with Christian Watson. And then we want to swing for the fences here. Tyrone Tracy could be there. I thought about Will Shipley handcuffing, but Tracy has the upside if Barkley doesn't get hurt. So you want to try to embrace risk. You want to try to swing for the fences. I need some things to work out. Rashid Shaheed is always good for a couple big games in there in the carpet down in New Orleans. So that's what I look to do. And again, my strategy, I need elite running back production. I need to have the 2 stud running backs who last year everyone was afraid of because outside of McCaffrey, no one really did well. I'm going to embrace that instead of trying to get a bunch of middling wide receivers because I think I can take your Zay Flowers and raise you Rashid Shaheed. That is my strategy. That's what I went for. Tank Dell, obviously also great. That's the thing. Yeah, 18 wide receivers versus 6 RBs. That's my point is I think the knee-jerk reaction has gone too far. Last year, I loved double tapping wide receiver because people were grabbing running backs at the end of round 1. This year, everyone's grabbing wide receivers. Now, that being said, Chris, if Amon-Ra St. Brown drops to pick 8, this entire draft looks differently because I probably start Amon-Ra, Garrett Wilson, and everything is different. But you have to roll with how the draft goes.
And every draft I did with you last year, Amon-Ra was your guy, man. You were banging on the drum for Amon-Ra. I think you were able to get him in most drafts. What, like end of first, early second, Amon-Ra, and look where he's going now. Right? This guy is. I mean, you can make the case for him as wide receiver 4, and like in a full PPR league, absolutely you could.
Yeah, and I think you have to also come up with some strong opinions on random teams. One of my thoughts is I don't think Sean Payton likes Javonte Williams. I think he had an opportunity. He came in. That was not the guy he picked. He didn't produce. What did he do? He gave Jaleel McLaughlin, a guy he drafted, a lot more touches. And what did he do this year? He drafts Estime. So that to me is value because I go, everyone's going to draft Javonte Williams. They're going to remember him from 2 years ago. That's not a Sean Payton pick. I'll take the other guys at reduced value, kind of like the old New England strategy. You take the cheapest running back. So you have to come up with some thoughts too on how players are going to do on certain teams. Do you like Debo or Ayuk? Do you like which one more? Is Kittle still a value? Those sort of ideas you have to mull over in your head.
Yeah, great point on the Denver backfield. I'm with you. And I was dead wrong about Javonte Williams last year. That's an L that I will certainly take. I had a lot of shares of him as well. Yeah. I just love that he was going between round 10 and 12. I knew it would take a little bit of time. I do think he's the most talented back they have, but that doesn't matter. Sean Payton is, he's stuck in his ways, and that's it. He has a feeling about a guy, and we saw 3 guys last year, Samaje Perine as well, getting touches in that backfield. So Javonte, I'm not going to have too many shares of him, and there's no discount on Javonte. He's kind of going roughly the same as where he was going last year, and it may just be a similar season, if not worse for him. But JP in here, heavy wide receivers, right? As you just said, 18 wide receivers, 6 running backs in the first 2 rounds. I don't think that this is just a best ball thing. I think we will see this in your home leagues as well. Some guys are old school. They want their bell cow running backs. These things will happen. But in that Sirius XM post draft, this is how the first couple rounds went as well. That's why, Kyron Williams is able to fall in the 3rd. I was able to get Derrick Henry in the 5th. I was able to get Joe Mixon in the 7th or the 8th as running back 23. People want their wide receivers. They want their pass catchers. So I think, Mike, you bring up some really good points about, zigging and zagging, right? Going the other way, taking the value at the running back position. So let's just hang on for a couple more minutes if you have some time. We'll just kind of like roll through maybe some prizes here in the draft. So round 3, as we said, more running backs, 2 tight ends off the board. We already talked about Travis Kelce maybe going a touch early, but team 11, 4 Chiefs here in a row with Kelce, Mahomes, Brown, and Worthy. That's a hell of a job there, and a lot of it's a good stack. Kind of tough to do.
Yeah, another strategy that I looked at is trying to look for running backs that I think were sort of lucky last year and are not as dominant as we think. I'm not sure that I'm a huge Ken Walker guy. He goes in round 6. So Christie's he went pick 69 round 6. So he's in the RB dead zone. Okay. So that's a first strike against him. Secondly, Zach Charbonnet is second round draft capital right behind him. And he's a good receiver as well. That's the second strike against him. And Charbonnet is about 3 or 4 rounds after him. So those are also sort of the backfields that I like to target because I think it's very easy. Forget the injury, which is always prevalent. I'm not sure that Kenneth Walker is that much better than Zach Charbonnet if both got a legitimate workload. Remember, Charbonnet had a big game against the Cowboys, I believe. So those are some other things I look for. James Cook was fantastic, but you can get Ray Davis 6, 7, 8 rounds later. I mean, it's not a hard, and again, you don't kill your draft capital if you spend a late round pick like that.
Yeah, my one thing with James Cook is I know he got more work when Joe Brady took over. I just don't think he's. And it's so tough to predict touchdowns, but I just don't see a ton of them for him at all. Yeah. It's like Josh Allen inside the red zone. So you're just getting a guy that touches the ball like 15, 17 times. And, what's the ceiling look like for James Cook is a guy that may finish outside the top 20 in terms of red zone rushing attempts. It's crazy, even though that offense is going to be good again. I agree with you on Walker. Just looking again here, some value. I thought Terry McLaurin, I know he's an unsexy pick, and I hear people all the time, what you see is what you get with Terry, but maybe Daniels can unleash him because he's had 14 different quarterbacks, Terry McLaurin, over his 4 years in Washington, 4 or 5. Like, it's just been in, and all these quarterbacks that they bring in are not good. So you got Jaden Daniels there, and him going as I don't know, in the 6th round, I think is after like Worthy and Odunze. Like, Odunze is the 3rd option in Chicago, maybe, behind DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. So Terry McLaurin, you're getting a wide receiver 1 on his own team here, which is not the case. Like, Godwin's a 2 on his team, Addison's a 2 on his team, Brian Robinson Jr. is a 2 at best on his squad, most likely. Rashee Rice, yes, you got yourself a wide receiver 1. Jaden Reed, yes, I would say wide receiver 1. Terry McLaurin, yeah. But these other guys, it may take some time, like even some of the guys before as well, Mike. Like, I don't know. I think Terry's a value, and I think Zamir White here in the 7th is also a good value. I think he has upside to be a top 20 back.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin could be this year's DJ Moore. So Mr. Consistency, but doesn't get touchdowns. Terry McLaurin last 4 years, 87 receptions, 77, 77, 79. 1,000 yards each year, touchdowns 4, 5, 5, 4. One of those years is going to be 8 or 9. And if it is this year, it could be a home run. So I like Terry McLaurin as well.
So Zamir White in here, round 7 with David Montgomery. I think good value there. Again, you're talking about dead zone, but if you started with, heavy wide receivers or hero RB type of strategy, kind of get back into the running backs around round 8 or 9. I'd say Zamir White is interesting. Jonathan Brooks, DeAndre Swift, James Conner. James Conner is actually a really good hero RB type of running back, right? That you can get as maybe your 2nd running back in round 8. I know you already have some shares of him.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. You look in round 8. I mean, I love the David Njoku pick. Swift worries me because that backfield is kind of crowded. And
I like cross him off your list.
Yeah, and I like a Spears over Pollard. A Spears was dynamic. We're all worried about Tony Pollard coming in. Why? Yeah. What did Tony Pollard do to make us nervous here?
Yeah. Not much. I agree on Swift, actually. This is too much going on. I don't even know if he's going to be the goal line back in Chicago. And he may not even be the pass-catching running back there as well. Roschon played that role last year, so there is a lot going on there. Trey Benson, like one of the two. I'm surprised at how, like, Connor and Benson, like how close together they went. Connor is the lead there. Benson's kind of like, hey, if Connor goes down again, you can fall into a workload that's heavy. James Conner, I think, is a really good value that nobody wants in round 8. Into round 9, not a lot of guys check boxes here for me, aside from Benson. The upside on Jameson Williams and Mike Williams. You hope that the Williams boys can stay healthy. Brock is a good target, especially if you got some San Fran guys. What do you think about Brock Bowers with the Raiders? That was one of the landing spots that wasn't fantastic.
Not interested. I gave them an F on my draft grades article. I think Mayer is the better value. I know he's super talented, but you have to be able to use him. Is he more athletic, Chris, than when Kyle Pitts came in the league? I mean, so we're putting a lot of faith here in Antonio Pierce being able to use him. I think he's a great athlete, and in the right system, he could be great. If he went to the Colts, I would have loved him, but I have no shares of Bowers. I don't plan on getting any either.
Zach Moss, an interesting target as well. Again, if you're a hero RB, you're looking for some mid to late, running backs. Him and Chase Brown both go in this round. Both Cincinnati running backs with Joe Mixon gone. Into round 10, Spears to you. I think good value. Brian Robinson Jr., good value. Mostert. This is terrific value again for the hero RB, which is a strategy I love to have. One anchor running back, heavy wide receivers, get a quarterback and a tight end maybe, and then you can live in this range for your RB2, 3, and 4. Zeke, Brian Robinson Jr., Spears, Mostert, Gus Edwards. Nick Chubb is a tough pick. We don't know when he's going to be ready. He's progressing well, but he's got a long way to go. Blake Corman there, Singletary again. You get a piece of a starting running back in the Giants squad. We talked about your pick a little bit later on with Tracy Jr. in round 16 as a guy that could overtake that backfield as well. Into round 12. Not seeing a ton that really checks my, Shakir here, I think is a good one. Charbonnet is a good one. You talked about him earlier. Cole Kmet is a good tight end. Purcell, right? You're kind of hoping for, I just don't see a path for him to be all that great this year unless, one of the two and Debo and Ayuk are traded or one of those guys go down. There's a lot of moving pieces in San Fran. Freiermuth, I think, is a good tight end target. Franklin, not a lot of competition there in Denver. We get into round 13, right? Just get a piece of Miami, right? Get a piece of Jalen with Miami there. Quentin Johnson, do you believe in? What do you make of this? The Chargers.
The idea that Jim Harbaugh was going to take a wide receiver at pick 5 was the biggest joke around. He lives in an RV, okay, down by the river, all right, down by the ocean. He believes the offensive linemen are weapons. I don't want Quentin Johnston. I know the hate has gone very far, but I think you're going to see a conservative offense here. Sure, there's going to be some feast or famine shots with him, but I've never been a fan of that archetype. I thought he would get more targets last year with Allen and Williams there and be a great value late. Very disappointed. So can I see him developing under Jim Harbaugh? I can't. So I'd much rather go a different direction.
Yeah, same. I do like Lad McConkey, but it's a steep price to pay, round 7, and that's a guy that I think could actually move up draft boards here. Love these couple of picks, man. And Roman Wilson, I loved your pick of Pickens, but Roman Wilson, and you talked already about the Steelers and an organization that has just had a lot of success over the past few years. Tomlin talked this guy up. He wanted him to play against the top corners in Senior Bowl. Him and Mitchell went toe-to-toe, and it was phenomenal to watch both of those guys. But Wilson was a selection that Tomlin wanted, and he could open up already as like wide receiver 2 on the team. And then Michael Wilson is a guy that I like as well. All the love is going to go to Marvin Harrison Jr., but Hollywood Brown is away from that squad. Kyler, you hope that he's there for a full season. Michael Wilson is the number 2 wide receiver in Arizona at pick 13. I think is terrific value there. And then this is the run of kind of the rookies, right? Ray Davis, rookies and sophomore, Ray Davis, Vidal. You got Marshawn Lloyd in here. Kendre Miller is a sophomore. In the next round, nothing really. Javon Baker, but how good is New England's offense going to be? Aiden O'Connell, I don't like that pick. I think we'd see Gardner Minshew for a majority of the season. Demiro Douglas is like some volume there in New England. There's not a lot that really excites me about that round, Mike. And then these final 3 rounds, it really is just about getting a third quarterback. Maybe it's a rookie or somebody that can fall into some more games, or a high upside running back that could be the next man up. Bucky Irvin's in here. Braylon Allen's in here. Keaton Mitchell's in here. Tyron Tracy Jr., Will Shipley, Roshan Johnson. It's a lot of just kind of next man up. You're shooting for home runs upside in the final couple picks.
See, going back to your point before, DJ Chark in round 17. Quentin Johnson. I'll take DJ Chark. No, right. Like, who would you throw to?
Chark.
Of course, right? Like Justin Fields again, huge upside. Even Rondell Moore in Atlanta. Would it shock you if Rondell Moore was? Matt Collins was massively underused last year. He's gone now, but I Rondell Moore in the carpet. I mean, he has usable weeks. There's a couple DFS weeks. He was fantastic. Two Gun talked about it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. A pleasure, man. We got the first one underway. We won't do this all the time, but I wanted to just kind of recap just to identify the value. Got some strategy pieces and nuggets from you as well. And again, Mike, we got all kinds of content over at FTN Fantasy and promo code FTN for 100% first time deposit match up to $100. So looking forward to chopping up with you again in the draft room. Randall Rant, myself, Chris Meaney. Have any questions at all about Underdog Fantasy? Hit me up. But again, we have you covered over at FTN Fantasy. A ton of links inside the description of this video. And this is just one of many drafts that we're going to do here at FTN. So thanks for taking the time to be a part of this. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.